waiting in the calm of desolation, wanting to break from this circle of confusion. Sleeping in the depths of isolation, trying to wake from this daydream of illusion. How can I feel abandoned even when the world surrounds me? How can I bite the hand that feeds the strangers all around me? How can I know so many, never really knowing anyone? If I seem superhuman, I have been misunderstood. It challenges the essence of my soul and leaves me in a state of disconnection as I navigate the maze of self-control, playing a lion being led to a cage. I turn from a thief to a beggar, from a god to God save me. How can I be abandoned even when the world surrounds me? How can I bite the hand that feeds the strangers all around me? How can I know so many, never really knowing anyone? If I seem superhuman, I have been misunderstood. Misunderstood. Playing a lion being led to a cage, I turn from surreal to seclusion, from love to disdain, from belief to delusion, from a thief to a beggar, from a god to God save me. How can I feel abandoned even when the world surrounds me? How can I bite the hand that feeds the strangers all around me? How can I know so many, never really knowing anyone? If I seem superhuman, I have been misunderstood. Misunderstood.
Good morning. My name is Rick Honnenberg, and I serve as president of the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg this year. Thank you for joining us in this via live stream this morning. In cooperation with the global national health authorities, we have suspended all in-person church activities for the time being. Our care for one another and for our community only becomes more important in times like these. I encourage you to visit our website, www.uucs.org, for ways you can join in our work. If you have questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, any of the board members, or any of our staff. Our job is to serve you. Allow me to just make a few brief announcements. Our annual meeting, including the election of new officers, approving the budget, and voting on the social justice discernment project, will take place at 1 o'clock this Sunday, June 14th. It will be a meeting, it will be a Zoom meeting. If you haven't voted already, because several people have already voted absentee, the check-in time can be 12:45. Our annual summer solstice celebration will take place via live stream this Saturday, June 20th at 6:30 p.m. At-home solstice kits are available for you to take part remotely. See happenings or the church Facebook page for more information. You can join us at the same time YouTube channel. Celebrate the sun at its height with us. We are glad that you have taken the time to connect with us this morning. Especially in times like this, we need each other. Thank you for being part of our congregation. We are a people of faith and hope. Put my mask back on.
I want to thank Rick for showing us the proper putting on of his mask. As all of us know, if that one section of our service could be distributed across our community, we would all be doing a lot better. I do want to express gratitude for the team that makes this service happen every week. We say this week after week, and it is true every week, and it is certainly true today. We are pre-recording this service because we've had trouble with the internet dropping. And so in an attempt to provide a smooth experience for all who will watch the service, the team has gathered 2 hours early with coffee in hand, all wearing masks, to record this service and to do it the best we are able. Every week has been long, and this has been a long one. We have been preparing for a virtual annual meeting. We have been juggling the pieces of our lives and the pieces of this service. You can see from the setup in front of you, the multiple microphones and music stands and chairs, that we are trying more sophisticated ways of doing this. We are experimenting, and that is demanding. This team has learned to adapt and to improvise and to bear with one another. It's a lot of what we're talking about today. And so for decisions made on the spur of the moment and changes that are made mid-stride, I just want to say thank you for what everyone is doing to make this work, to make it meaningful, and to make it really good. This month, we are thinking about 4 interrelated themes. The first is the solstice, which we will celebrate on June 20th. And I want to invite you to come virtually to watch via this YouTube channel at 6:30 on Saturday, June 20th, celebration of the solstice. We have a team that has been developing the celebration. Ideas are overflowing all boundaries, and it is going to be rich and exciting and good. Have it on the good authority of both ancient mythology and contemporary science that despite pandemics, Solstices happen every year, and it will happen this year. Please join us for this celebration. Our second theme is superheroes. To think about these characters from stories, from movies, from comic books, who act as a mirror for us to look at in order to better understand our world and our place in it, and where our power lies, how we can be heroes in our lives, in our ordinary lives, to make a difference for the good, and also to enjoy that work, the fun of these stories. We are thinking about this today and all month as well. The third theme that we are working with are the times in which we are living. Dr. Fauci was quoted this week by saying that the pandemic is becoming his nightmare. What he had dreaded would take place. And we can see numbers rising all around us now, and people still living in denial and disregard as if nothing is happening. And we see also that this pandemic emerges within the context of the much greater epidemic of social injustice and systemic racism on which our society is built and which informs every part of our life in this country. We are going to think very seriously about these things that are happening now and that have been happening for centuries. But we are not a people who live in fear. And so the fourth theme that we are working with, the theme that pulls all of the other themes together, is the theme of what we as a congregation are doing in the midst of all of this. I want to encourage you to attend the annual meeting today at 1 o'clock. The Zoom link has been sent out, and it can be shared with you again if you don't have it. Everyone is welcome to listen. The story that we have to tell is not one of unanimity. It is not one of perfection. It is full of human flaws and remarkable human teamwork. I cannot be more proud and am frankly amazed at what this congregation has done over the last year and the last 3 years, and especially for the last 3 months. This annual meeting is going to be a celebration. And we begin that celebration in our service with our flower communion. Once a year, we celebrate our annual ingathering of flowers, a time when we all bring flowers to place on the altar during our service, a symbol of our work together and of the beauty that we create together out of our myriad differences. Today, we are social distancing, and we are not able to bring our flowers together in the abundance to which we are accustomed. You can see that the very few people, fewer than 10 people who have gathered today to produce this service, have brought what flowers they could in order to symbolize the ingathering of flowers in which we share. I want to invite you, as this service continues, to find a flower in your home or in your yard, even just a sprig of greenery. You can pause this service and go out and pick a wildflower or just a handful of grass, so that after the meditation, when we bring flowers forward, you also can place your offering beside the computer at our virtual altar, and then to bring that same offering to our annual meeting, to place it in the screen with you so that we can see it, so that our gathering together to do the business of this church will also be a gathering of beauty and of joy. These are difficult times, a nightmare for even those who knew to anticipate them. So challenging for us that many turn away in denial, but not us. We face this world as it is because we know we hold a power to make it better. And that power expands when we join together as a team. Thank you for being here today.
Amanda Gorman was named our very first Youth Poet Laureate in 2017. I am honored to share her poem, In This Place, an American Lyric. There is a poem in this place, in the footfalls, in the halls, in the quiet beat of the seats. It is here at the curtain of day where America writes a lyric you must whisper to say. There is a poem in this place, in the heavy grace, the lined face of this noble building, collections burned and reborn twice. There is a poem in Boston's Copley Square where protest chants tear through the air like sheets of rain, where the love of many swallows the hatred of the few. There is a poem in Charlottesville where tiki torches string a ring of flame tight round the wrist of night, where men so white they gleam blue seem like statues, where the men heap the long wax burning ever higher, where heather higher blooms forever in a meadow of resistance. There is a poem in the great sleeping giant of Lake Michigan, defiantly raising its big blue head to Milwaukee and Chicago, a poem begun long ago, blazed into frozen soil, strutting upward and aglow. There is a poem in Florida, in East Texas, where streets swell into a nexus of rivers, cows afloat like mottled boys in the brown, where courage is now so common that 23-year-old Jesus Contreras rescues people from floodwaters. There is a poem in Los Angeles, yawning wide as the Pacific tide, where a single mother swelters in a windowless classroom, teaching Black and brown students in Watts to spell out their thoughts so her daughter might write this poem for you. There's a lyric in California where thousands of students march for blocks, undocumented and unafraid, where my friend Rosa finds the power to blossom in deadlock, her spirits the bedrock of her community. She knows hope is like a stubborn ship gripping a dock, a truth you can't stop a dreamer or knock down a dream. How could this not be her city, su nación, our country, our America, our American lyric to write, a poem by the people, the poor, the Protestant, the Muslim, the Jew, the native, the immigrant, the Black, the brown, the blind, the brave, the undocumented and undeterred, the woman, the man, the non-binary, the white, the trans, the ally to all of the above, and more. Tyrants fear the poet. Now that we know it, we can't blow it. We owe it to show it, not slow it, although it hurts to sow it when the world skirts below it. Hope. We must bestow it, like a wick in the poet, so it can glow, lit, bringing with it stories to rewrite. The story of a Texas city depleted, but not defeated. A history written that need not be repeated. A nation composed, but not yet completed. There is a poem in this place, a poem in America, a poet in every American who rewrites this nation, who tells a story worthy of being told on this minnow of an earth, to breathe hope into a palimpsest of time, a poet in every American who sees that our poem penned doesn't mean our poems end. There's a place where this poem dwells. It is here, it is now. In the yellow song of dawn's bell, where we write an American lyric, we are just beginning to tell.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
My name is Mel Fritchie, and I am pleased to be serving as your worship associate today as we begin our transition into our summer programming, where you will see more of the worship team helping in the services. Our covenant, written by this congregation, provides the practical guidance of how we wish to live in community. These words, powerful when they were written, continue to gain power as this community manifests their meaning in its work. For 13 weeks, I said these words in my own home, my voice joining with Anne's and my family's. Let us now join our voices to speak the truth of our covenant. We are a people of faith and hope. Together, we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with a power of a love beyond belief. At this time in our live service, we share joys and concerns in our rippling bowl, now beautifully virtually transformed on our Facebook page. Speak what is in your heart into this community. We hold you in care. We now also use this time to greet one another. Send out your care to our community. Using the powers of your mind, or perhaps your own superhero communication device. I am delighted every week to receive greetings from my friend Seffi, among others. Feel in this time your community and its care for you.
This is a place of tremendous generosity. Generosity from the outpouring of all of our gifts. Gifts of energy, gifts of wisdom and insight, gifts of time, gifts of skill, gifts of finances. We have seen that in an abundance already this morning, just in this service. And that is a living symbol of the enormity of the giftedness and generosity that flows through this congregation every week. We share the plate this month on behalf of the Navajo Nation, the people and the place within our country that has the highest rate of infection and is suffering the most from this pandemic at this time. If you go to our website, www.uucs.org, and scroll beneath this live stream, you will see a help button. If you click on that button, you will find innumerable ways that you can help through service, through advocacy, and through your generosity. Ways that you can give to support the immigrant community in Spartanburg, ways that you can give to support the ministry of this congregation, and ways that you can share the plate in support of our siblings on the other side of our country, but very much connected to us. People suffering not only from this pandemic, but from centuries of theft and violence and oppression acted on them by the precursors and founders and the continued citizens of this country, including ourselves. Through the outpouring of our gifts, whatever our gifts may be, may we change that pattern. May we reverse the centuries of oppression that we have inherited to join with our siblings in this country and around the world to create a world that is livable for everyone. Let us bring our gifts.
It's tent that leaps from star to star.
We're trying some new stuff today, and that includes the meditation. So first, let me say thank you to Anne for being willing to be up here and to do this. We are talking today about teamwork. The theme all month is superheroes, and that comes from an auction sermon that was purchased anonymously last fall. And there are few, if any, superhero stories without the major theme of teamwork. And so we want to talk about teamwork anyway. It's an essential part of this, but there are some deeper reasons for doing this as well. Anne Garner has been our ministry intern for the last 2 years. Anne reached out to our church, to me, more than 2 years ago, as a mid-career seminary student seeking a ministry placement, a place to do an internship. And her persistence just to get a response from me itself should have earned her the credits required. But we had the good fortune for her to ask and the good sense to say yes. And it has been a remarkable 2 years. And this is the last Sunday of the second year of Anne's internship with us. And we have a very uncertain future. We don't know what the future holds for any of us, especially now. We do have an annual meeting in a couple of hours. And at that meeting, a budget will be voted on, and that budget includes a small stipend that would allow Anne to continue for another 4 months in internship with us from September to December while we gauge how the church fares through the coming months of the pandemic and as Anne thinks about her future, as we think about what the future is for all of us. So there is hope, but there is great uncertainty. And even in the uncertainty, there has been amazing teamwork that Anne has fostered here, not only with staff and not only with me, but with many, many, many of us. And so we want to reflect on teamwork with Anne today. And we want to do it in dialogue, as a team effort, and as a kind of experiment to symbolize the shift that we're making as we go into the marathon of this pandemic and as we find ways to work together. So, meditation and dialogue to celebrate Anne and to celebrate our teamwork and to experiment, to test ourselves. So, we want to begin just by thinking about superheroes. And let me ask you, Anne, to kick us off. Is there a superhero, or are there superheroes to whom you especially look as you navigate your own life?
So I am not, I think, as big of a fan of superheroes or knowledgeable as superheroes as Scott.
I'm not sure that that's a compliment at all.
But I love Wonder Woman. I remember watching Linda Carter as Wonder Woman and her spinning around into her Wonder Woman costume and being in awe of her. I thought she was beautiful and strong at the time, but I was probably, 5 or 6. Later, I realized that she is a symbol of truth, justice, and equality to all people. So that really resonates with me and makes me think she's even better. So in thinking about this meditation, I went to the DC Comics website, and I read this about Wonder Woman, and it just confirmed what I think. Wonder Woman has come to represent the possibility and potential of life without war, hate, or violence. And she is a beacon of hope to all who find themselves in need. She stands as an equal among the most powerful superheroes, with a sense of purpose to protect the world from injustice in all forms. So since I can't think of anything I want more than justice and equality for all people, I think it just confirms why she is my favorite, at least of the comic book and movie variety.
And one of the things that I am fascinated by with superheroes is this way that they mirror for us. And there is this move that Wonder Woman makes. It's like it's maybe not her ultimate move, but it is an ultimate move. When she is battling injustice, there is this moment where she will put her hands together, her wrists together, and it creates this shockwave that pushes everything back, changes everything back. And I feel like I've seen that more than once with you in the last 2 years. There have been times that we have been doing organizing, and the very folks that we're working with, our own team internally, me as your colleague, are times that we fall into these patterns that begin to collapse the very thing that we're trying to do. And you have this gift for saying, whoa, 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 this needs to shift back. And some of the things that we've created here and out in the community, with the social justice team and with the pastoral care associates and worship and in community collaboration, it has been like that. It has been this moment of, whew, and people still talk about some of those moments.
Not sure what to think about.
I love it. I love it.
So in thinking about superheroes, I also immediately went to some real life superheroes. And these superheroes, they don't wear capes. Many of them wear scrubs. They're doctors and nurses, phlebotomists, respiratory therapists, x-rays, and so on. Right now I'm working at Spartanburg Regional as a hospital chaplain, and most of the work I do is in the emergency center. So I am regularly called to the trauma bay, and this is where I see real superheroes. They each have their own skill set, and they come in and they work together to save lives. And right now, in this time of COVID, I think they're even greater superheroes because they are putting their own lives and the lives of their families at risk every day to come to work. And if that doesn't deserve superhero status, I don't know what does.
It strikes me that there is the work of superheroes, whatever cape or not they wear, whatever their PPE may be. And then there is the person in proximity who can tell their story. And the rest of us don't learn without the storyteller to share what has happened. And you have made use of your clinical pastoral education in the hospital to tell those stories. It is an essential part of the work. So thank you for doing that.
Thanks for helping me get through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was thinking about some superheroes also. Do you mind if I do this? So, because it's such a cliche that the superhero has to have a team. So I was trying to think about what team comes most to mind in all of the superhero stories I have indulged in over the course of my life, which is many. And the folks that come to mind the most are the X-Men, right? So the premise of the X-Men is that they are evolved. They have experienced genetic mutations, and that is the primary source of their powers. And this is itself a metaphor for anti-bigotry and for human difference. And in the 2000s, the telling of the story has been largely framed as around LGBTQ and gender identity and issues, right? That's the clear subtext of a lot of these stories. And the idea is that difference is a marker of evolution, of having gone beyond. And every individual of these X-Men, these evolved beings, they are immensely powerful in and of themselves. But a hallmark of their stories is that they can't do the work without each other. They are intrinsically interconnected, and each of their points of evolution almost requires that of the other so that they work together. It's a really powerful example of teamwork. But the thing that I find so powerful in this is not just the way they physically fight together or work together, but that the premise of their stories is that they face difficult moral choices. They have to make decisions. And the fundamental decision is, will they protect the very people who would aggress against them in misunderstanding, right? So human beings who are less evolved would aggress against these people. And the hard decision that they have to make over and over again is, will they defend the very people who misunderstand and would aggress? So the mirror is not only that we need each other to do the work, but that we call the best out of each other. We need each other to make the very difficult moral choices that we have to make. And I find that a really powerful story for us to pay attention to. Teamwork is not just about getting the job done well, although it is that, but it is about calling each other to our better selves.
You saying that makes me think about the necessity of having a team. This spring, when COVID hit, our CPE cohort basically was told we really didn't need to be in the hospital. And that to me was there was a big moral decision around that, because I felt like that was a smart thing, that I shouldn't be in order to protect my family and all of those things. But I also really struggled feeling like chaplains are there for crisis. This is crisis, and I need to be in the hospital. And so when I had the opportunity to go back, I talked to you, I talked to Ted, I talked to lots of people. I needed that team around me to help me make that kind of, it was a moral decision, because I felt both answers were right, but I had to determine what to do, and I don't think I could have made that decision by myself.
And the solutions that you found were demanding, but really good, really wise, and very effective, so that you backloaded your hours after the residents were nearing burnout, right? That was a really helpful move that you opened up for the program, I think.
But I couldn't have done it alone.
Yeah. So what's the value of teamwork? Why do teams matter?
Because I think we benefit when we collaborate with each other. We can learn from one another, and there are more perspectives that are brought into creation or solving or whatever it is that you're trying to, the end goal of this team. I always think the sum is greater than each individual part. When we put our minds together, we can create greater things.
So that seems self-evident. I mean, that it is important to say it over and over again, but the fact that it's important to say it over again indicates that even though we know this, it's hard to do.
It is hard to do.
Why, if it's so evident, why is teamwork so hard?
Sometimes I think we're selfish. I know for a fact that I am guilty of saying, well, no, I can get it done quicker and better if I just do it myself. And I think sometimes that is the truth, but I also think that we're missing out on opportunity to create greater things when we don't involve others. I think we can disagree on the goal or how to get to the goal, and so sometimes it makes it hard to engage in that teamwork, because it's just easier we all want to get along, and knowing that there's going to be disagreement and conflict and all of those things, it makes it hard to say, I still want to do that, even with that out there.
Yeah, we know there's going to be friction, so we'd like to avoid that, but it has great benefit very often in the long run. Not that there aren't times to act alone, there are, but it helps a lot of times to slow down and work as a team, but it's difficult. I think it's really difficult.
Our egos get in the way sometimes.
Yeah, again, there's this theme of it's effective, but also it pushes us to be our better selves. There's, so I was talking about the X-Men, and frankly, I don't like the X-Men as a set of superheroes very much. They're very flawed. It's super violent. And I would really not recommend the X-Men movies or the X-Men stories as a go-to for folks. I think there's a lot that's very problematic. And as much as it tries to be anti-bigotry and about tolerance and acceptance and difference, it often gets it really right for one part of our identities and really wrong for another, right? So it's very uneven. So I was thinking, why did the X-Men come to my mind for teamwork when I wouldn't recommend watching any of those movies? Like, why are they stuck in my head? And I realized that there is one X-Men movie that is the best one. It's the one that I kept thinking of, and it was hard for me to place at first. It's not obvious. But it is an X-Men movie, although it purports to be something different. It's the same storyline. It even has some of the same cast members, but it goes by a different title. And it's The Greatest Showman from 2017, right? It's even got Hugh Jackman in it, who's the star of all the X-Men movies. And it's the story of people who have evolved, who are different biologically and in terms of identity and in terms of their powers, and are vastly misunderstood by the society around them and are outcasts because of it. But when they form a team and work together, they not only create a space for themselves in the world, but they create something new in society. They push against society. And that movie itself is very flawed. It's fictionalized, and there are some misrepresentations of what really happened in it. It's not a documentary, and one should watch it with a grain of salt. But the creators of that movie knew what they were doing, not to reflect what happened 100 years ago with the circus, but the message of difference and the assertion of difference to transform society in our world today. Right? It's a movie that borrows a story from 100 years ago to tell the story of today. And in that way, it's very, very powerful.
You make unbelievable connections.
Well, no, it's there. It is the best X-Men movie. And it's a story of, so we're in the time of this national reawakening, if only for a moment, to systemic racism. And The Greatest Showman is a story of two white guys in charge who profit from other people's difference for a while, and then when their first endeavor tanks, they're ready just to call it quits. And the folks who they have taken advantage of say, what the hell, no. No. We're in this together, we're gonna work together. You guys need to get your heads turned around. It is, one way to read the movie is, it is a shift of white, straight male privilege into a very different way of working as a team. And as someone who fits every one of those categories, it's a great corrective.
I think I'm going to have to go watch that movie.
It's a summons to work in a different way. And it's not that they're bad guys, but they almost get it really wrong and wreck a lot of people's lives until the very people who they pretended to work with say, you've got to go much deeper into this. And they are called to their better selves, and they do something transformative in their world. It's the best X-Men movie. So
I wonder what the creators of that movie would think of that.
I don't think they would mess with Hugh Jackman if he claimed it. He's got the claws. So, we've been talking about the Enneagram, and as a personality inventory, that's really helpful for identifying our powers, and it's really useful for teamwork. And I wonder if you've worked with that with teams more than I have. I wonder if you would just touch on that.
Sure. I don't really remember exactly when I first learned about the Enneagram, but I first really used it when I was leading teams from First Baptist Greenville to Cuba. And somebody recommended the team reading this book, determining what number we lead with, and then we had a facilitator come to one of our pre-trip meetings, and we kind of shared what we were, and then he just kind of pointed out different ways of, well, that might explain why this person does this, or you might see this out of this number. I've led a number of trips, and there are some people who going to Cuba is a very stressful experience, which I can imagine. And so knowing how people might react in stress, it was helpful to go into this trip where we are spending a lot of time together in a van in closed spaces, and people get stressed out and hangry and all of those things. And I think it was very helpful. And then my seminary cohort, I've got several people who are very into the Enneagram. One has now become a trainer. And so we have lots of conversation when we are together for classes about what different numbers do and how they react. And it's very frequent that someone will be like, oh, well, that's very 2 of you, or you're such an 8, or whatever. And it's just been helpful to navigate. It helps us understand each other a little better.
Yeah, and within that, which is also an obvious truth but hard to live by, right? It helps us understand each other, but it's really hard to do that work. One of the things that I've found in it is it helps me not only understand why people do what they do, but why that pisses me off, right? So it's not just you do things a certain way, but there's a reason why when you do that, it just drives me up the wall, right? And embedded in it are strategies for working with that, so that it helps me understand not only who you are, but why that aggravates me, and doesn't give me an excuse for that to be the reason we wouldn't work together. It actually gives tools for working with the people that piss you off. And that is that's a pretty amazing thing.
I want to know what these things are that I do that piss you off.
For you, they're none.
I
see the bracelets.
doubt that.
I see the bracelets coming out, and I'm backing away.
I think it helps us respect one another better. If you understand where people are coming from. Because each number kind of has these embedded motivations that you may not even realize that you have. And when you understand those motivations of your team members, it just helps you. I think it can help you avoid conflict and help you collaborate more and things like that. All the things that make teamwork work.
So we're close on time. You've got a question for me that I have not been prepped for, and then I've got a question for you.
All right. So
I'm afraid to say it, but shoot. Yeah, shoot. I'm afraid to say it.
Well, I have 2, and I'm trying to decide which one I'm going to throw at you really fast. So we're 2.5 years in. You got this email from this random seminary student about doing a supervised ministry. So I'm wondering a few things now that we're 2.5 years later. So what were your initial thoughts when you got that email? And you have to be honest, because I think I might have rolled my eyes. After we met a few times and it moved that we knew that this was going to work, what were your expectations for that year? And now that we're here, after 2 years, how's the reality compared to your expectation?
Those are really easy questions.
Then I'm going to throw my other one at you after.
Yeah, I'll give. The reality is more than I had imagined. It's been fantastic. And the initial expectations, this is kind of cluttering some of your early questions together, but part of who I am is that I constantly see the field of possibilities. And the thing I have to know about myself is that I can get lost in that if I don't go at a pace that allows those things to evolve. So I tend to go slower on a lot of things, not because I don't want them to happen, not because I'm trying to delay, certainly not because I'm afraid of them, but because I know they will become more than I can make them myself if I let them begin to find each other, and I am involved but not controlling the whole thing. And the results are always beyond what I could create. I love it. I just love it. It's very energizing to me. So when I got your email, I was intrigued and excited, and I knew not to jump too quickly because there needed to be an evolution, not just for me, but for the whole congregation about whether this was even possible. And then when you came on board, of course we had a job description and certain portfolio to give parameters and boundaries. But beyond that, I try to suspend too many specific expectations because what I really want for everyone, and certainly for you, are for your gifts to emerge. I want you to have the room to really show up as yourself rather than to do what I tell you to do. And, and it's too much to name in this short time. But it has exceeded, I think, everybody's expectations. And it's just been energizing. You have expanded our capacity and our self-awareness of who we can be and what we can do. And there's no doubt we've done things that we could never have done without you here. It's just not physically possible. So, hurrah. I'm so happy about it.
It's been good. All right, so my other little question that I think is a little bit funny is we've talked about teams and we've talked about superheroes. And I often, when I think about those, I go back to like TV watching as a kid. And there's lots of TV duos and teams. So who's your favorite and why?
My favorite superhero duo.
Superhero or just like Laverne and Shirley or Kermit and Miss Piggy or just a TV duo or superhero.
Oh, gosh.
See, you couldn't get off too easy.
No, I've got two. One from my childhood and one from my childhood to today. These are two superheroes for me. These are two of my favorite superheroes, and they do work in a duo. So the first is Rey from the Star Wars series. She is absolutely my favorite superhero. I haven't talked about Star Wars at all in all this because it deserves its own month unto itself, right? The Jedi deserve their own month. And she has more than one colleague, but one, Finn. There's a white woman and a black man working together. And that version of the Star Wars series evolved right as Speaking Out Barriers was really moving. There were all these parallels that the Speaking Out Barriers team was reading into it. Plus, it's just Star Wars, and so it's huge. And then my other favorite superhero is Mary Poppins. And Bert is a great sidekick. And I'd be Bert any day to your Mary Poppins. So let me ask you this. At the end of these 2 years, on the precipice of an annual meeting, the future uncertain for all of us, what has been good?
So that's really kind of an unfair question because I could probably talk about that for days, and I have 2 minutes. But there has been a lot of goodness. Here I have found a church and a movement that really values the things that I value. Many people have heard the first time I read the 7 principles, I was like, these are my people. And I believe that even more now than I did 2 years ago. Here I found a place where people could be authentically who they are. I think church should always be that, but I don't think that's the case in many, many churches. But here it is true. Here I found people who care for one another and care deeply. And when somebody says, "How are you?" they really want to know. They're not just saying, "How are you? I'm fine." The questions are answered with deep care and intent. And I don't think you find that lots of places. Here I have found radical hospitality, which is very important to me. It's probably one of the things that is very central to me. I want people to feel included wherever I go. And I think this is a place that does that very well. And here I found a place that supported me and encouraged me as I tried to embrace this whole ministry thing that I really wanted to avoid. I kind of came at it kicking and screaming. I'm a preacher's kid. It was the last thing in the world I wanted to do. I didn't want to go to seminary, but I found myself there. When I found out I had to do a supervised ministry, I didn't want to do it in a church. I asked if I could please do it in a nonprofit, and they said no. And so what started as an 8-month venture here has turned into a 2-year venture. And I have found that I really love it. And I am grateful to have found a place that really helped me embrace my gifts and figure all this out. But I'm also not sure if I should thank you or curse you.
Well, I want to thank you because you have shown up as yourself and you have given enormously from yourself. And it has absolutely, unquestionably made us more of who we are. The evidence is everywhere. So thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to share in the flower communion. We all bring individual flowers as we bring our individual selves. And when they join together, they create a beauty beyond any one of us. So this is not only for you or because of you. It is for every one of us in our individuality. But what I bring is in gratitude for you, for 2 years bringing your full self and what you have called out of me and everyone around you.
Thanks.
This is a symbol of us all.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am proof, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me, look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. This is who I'm meant to be. This is me. Another round of bullets hits my skin. Well, fire away, 'cause today I won't let the shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. Yeah, that's what we've become. Won't let them break me down to dust. I knows that there's a place for us. Oh, we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am proof, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me, look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. And I know that I deserve your love. There is nothing I'm not worthy of. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is proof, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. 'Cause here I come. I'm marching on to the beat I drum. Marching on, marching on, marching on. This is me. Gonna send a flood to drown them out. Oh, 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 this is me.
Thank you so much, Robbie. How could this not be her city? Su nación, our country, our America, our American lyric to write. A poem by the people, the poor, the Protestant, the Muslim, the Jew, the native, the immigrant, the black, the brown, the blind, the brave, the undocumented and undeterred, the woman, the man, the non-binary, the white, the trans, the ally to all of the above and more. Tyrants fear the poet. Now that we know it, we can't blow it. We owe it to show it, not slow it, although it hurts to sow it when the world skirts below it. Hope. We must bestow it like a wick in the poet, so it can grow lit, bringing with it stories to rewrite. The story of a Texas city depleted but not defeated. A history written that need not be repeated. A nation composed but not yet completed. There is a poem in this place, a poem in America, a poet in every American who rewrites this nation, who tells a story worthy of being told on this minnow of an earth. To breathe hope into the palimpsest of time, a poet in every American who sees that our poem penned doesn't mean our poems end. There is a place where this poem dwells. It is here. It is now. In the yellow song of Dawn's Bell, where we write an American lyric, we are just beginning to tell.
We are a team, and we are all superheroes. Last week, Scott said we're all badasses, and we have power, the power of a love beyond belief. We are a team of superheroes, and we can use this power for good. If there is something wrong happening in the world, you can do nothing, or you can do something. We can do something. Wonder Woman says, I have to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. We can do this for those who cannot. Wonder Woman says, it's not about deserve, it's about what you believe. And I believe in love. Only love can truly save the world. So I stay and I fight and I give for the world I know can be. This is our mission forever.
Moments give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. We have spent